Welcome back to the NinjaTalks podcast, a show for curious minds highlighting learning and tips that helped experts evolve better. Voices of Eminence is an initiative to bring influential leaders and changemakers on NinjaTalks podcast as a part of International Women's Day celebration to celebrate diversity and inclusion.
Do you know what it actually takes to make or break the stigma of conventional paths and continue to lead a growth mindset? Well, that's exactly what we are going to talk about in episode 14, a growth mindset. This is Sneh.
And this is Ria. With women led entrepreneurship being actively encouraged in India and globally, we bring someone who has evolved from being a chef to a leading entrepreneur herself on the global stage. Preksha Kaparwan, co founder at Alphaa AI, Emerge 50 winner, and a TEDx speaker. Welcome, Preksha, to the Ninja Talks podcast.
Thank you so much, Ria. Thank you, guys, for having me here. I'm really excited about this because I think the kind of sector this addresses to, that is where we need most inspiration at the moment with our youth.
Thank you so much. We are glad to have you on our show. So to begin with, you have worked in the different domains, in the marketing domain, in the hospitality domain, and now in the technology domain. So, what are the uncommon differences you have witnessed in the work cultures, and how did it help you to shape your steps ahead?
Ria, I would say like everything, all these domains were different. They're absolutely different. However, there are few common things which lies at the core of how you make decision, how you treat your customer, how you build certain things. So those are few commonalities. But however you execute in hospitality as an engineering as an and in marketing, they are a little bit different. How I'll think about everything revolves around data. And I was a person who always noticed this similarity. I noticed this while I was in hospitality, that how much of it was about data, how much of it was about getting things right, and predicting the need, predicting the income, predicting the customers coming in, and at the same time how to keep them also happy, giving them all those soft touches that are required in the hospitality. But now that Alpha AI is a data driven company and we are a BI company, right? So it seems like now more than ever, it's more important for us to focus on how these insights can help others. Earlier, I would say we were the consumer. Now, with my role in marketing, I am more of a enabler.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think each one of these domains had something to learn as a life tip. And like in any work role you are in, your skills are interchangeable. Your underlying ideas about certain things can be mixed and matched and applied again, right?
Absolutely correct. Moving forward, there are stories everywhere around us, right? So, when I talk about stories, they apply to products as well. Talking about Alpha AI, Alpha AI focuses on helping customers, showcasing compelling stories via data to the customers. So, tell us more about Alpha AI and what inspired you to step up for making data available to everyone.
Very interesting because I come from hospitality, and while I use data on Excel, and like I would get reports, I'll create conclusions out of it. And as a chef, my role was to understand how many people will be in the hotel, how many people from outside will walk in, and how much food I'm supposed to get made for certain events, or like if there are big weddings, what amount of ingredients I need to order. So like a little bit of that, and that would result into me trying to understand what my restaurant is going to earn in that month, and we would divide that weekly, and so on. So this was a very practical way of doing this thing, like how any business looks at their data and try to find the best possible way to go ahead. Now, coming into the startup world, when I started, I thought that this could be simpler, right? The hospitality segment should be able to use data very easily and come to these, like the smarter people, they come to these kind of conclusion all by themselves. But I thought, for everyone at every level, a tool can be provided to not wait for the data and be able to understand what the day looks like or the month looks like ahead. So that was one thing which I realized with my first startup. But then we realized that the amount of data in hospitality is not that much. It does not go out of hands as much as it does for enterprises. So now we started to work with a few Fortune companies, and we had a product which would create real-time dashboards, and it was more of a template-based mechanism. But our IP was into creating self-analyzed data or insights. Now there we wanted to understand, like, how do we make sure that business users are using it. Right now, we as a company, we are creating these dashboards, we are analyzing, our system is analyzing data, we are putting things together and then feeding it to the end user. Now, end user sometimes have more questions, sometimes they go back to their analytics team, sometimes they would come back to us for some changes, right? So this was a never ending process. Now, one day, my co-founder Saurabh, he asked, like, have you heard of Alexa? I said, sure. It's like, it would have been so much easier if you would have just asked Alexa to tell you about, what's your sales going to be, and in comparison to past month, how much ingredients have you brought in this month, what was the trend of your customer churn. So now, this was, this was unheard of, this was interesting, and we just got curious, like, can we do it, is it even possible? So we decided to try this out with one of our biggest customers. And I would say it was a little early, we were a little early in our journey, and it was kind of stupid. And we managed to put some few questions, train Alexa on few questions of data, and try it out in front of one of our customers. And it did not work. It was a presentation which we were waiting for the entire year, but Alexa just did not respond it in that particular presentation, and we were horrified. We're like, oh no, what's happening? So from there, we realized that this probably is just a good to have thing. Maybe it's not something people would like to use. But in next 2 years, I started to create a lot of stories around how we tried this thing, and how voice assistants can be trained to ask questions, answer questions, and around business and this and that. And I realized that a lot of business users were connecting with us, and they were trying to understand how can they use it. So it became evidently clear that probably people, probably the technology was not that mature back then, and the kind of people we were reaching out to were not exactly our target customers, were not the ones which were interested in this. The ones who were interested were the business users. And ultimately, for an analytics team, the idea is to be able to provide right insights to the business users, right? And that's where we thought, okay, this is it. This is what we are going to do for the rest of our innovative years.
Oh, well, that's a story worth listening, I must say. And it is interesting that how things shaped up with your journey, and it goes and goes. And so, what steps do you identify and suggest to bring change for the better in future for aspiring leaders who are on their entrepreneurial journey?
So one thing I learned during this journey, in reality, so Alpha is a platform where you can add any of your data sources, and instead of creating dashboards out of specific tables, you can ask questions to get insights on your entire database. Okay, so when I talk like this, it's a it sounds like a very complicated system, and in reality, what the business user sees is that he has a platform where he can ask questions on data. Now, to come till here, we had to go through a lot of experimentation, including the previous story I mentioned about bombing our biggest client. So that was the risk that we took. and then creating stories about it and sharing it on LinkedIn and or other media platforms. That was another risk that we took. Okay, outing the idea that we wanted to work with. For leaders and entrepreneurs, the only way they are going to be revered when is when they continuously keep making difference. So now things will not happen if you try once and something you tried
Understood.
and things did not work out and you give up. Things will not happen like that. As I earlier mentioned, it's a game of probability. You have to give it as many tries as you can just to reduce the chances of failure. So if you can give 10 chances, and there is a chance that only once you will succeed. So after three chances, if you stop, you will never succeed, right? If after seven chances you have still not succeeded, now you know that there is a chance that out of three times you will win once. So it's just a game of probability. And as leaders, you always need to understand that I have to try as many ways of failing at something as possible. Right.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely agree with you. And which is true, when one wants to make a difference, one needs to take the risk. So, moving forward, so what are your personal favorite learnings from your journey so far, and from people you have worked with? Whom do you admire to grow your horizons of knowledge?
So there are a few people that I follow on LinkedIn actually, and then there are a few people who influence me. Saurabh has always been my mentor actually, but apart from him, also there are a couple of people that we look forward to. There are a few investors. There is Mr. Alok Mittal, we highly regard, and we fear his hard questions. We are inspired by Casey. She's a citizen data scientist for Google, right? So those are the kind of people that we are inspired by. But during this journey, there were a few very hard calls that we made, and there are some turns that we took that made me realize that this is few things that probably people should be focusing more on. One is that you always keep your people together. You always keep your team aligned with your vision. Initially when people start their work, either they're entirely reliant on team that they have built to produce things for them, or they entirely cut the team off. Now team, initially at a startup, team wants leader to lead and show that how something has to be done, so you have to get your hands dirty. So that is something which most people will tell you, but not many people will tell you that when leaders doing everything and cutting their team from their vision, just telling them that this is the list that you need to fulfill and you have no part in the vision, but you are just cog in a wheel. That is the worst mistake someone can make, and I think we have made that. We relied on ourselves so much, and we wanted to get into everything and do everything, that our team never felt like a part of the vision. And this was, I'm talking about like almost 5 years back, and could not keep a lot of those people, and iteration was quite high. But we learned from that, and we learned that as a startup, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, you have to realize that you are not just growing the company, you're also growing the people who are with you. And the only way to grow them is to let them take leads on the smaller initiative, on the initiative that they feel comfortable and confident about. The other thing I think that was very prominent for me during these years, that letting go is not easy. When you have made up your mind that this is what I am doing and this will happen and we will distribute to this market, so now letting go of that idea when something is not working is very hard. And I think a lot of people, a lot of startups die because of this, because the founders could not take that step. So yeah, those are something to be looked out for.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on the note that, a
Mhm.
good team delivers exceptional results, and we
Mhm.
need a team which thrives to achieve the goals and not just work because they are employees.
Right.
I've heard those names, few of them. Moving forward, stereotype people think that if the ladies or the girls will grow their momentum, or they'll grow as techies, or say any domain, then they'll get into such a zone where they'll probably find opportunities, and they'll find it difficult to adjust with the societal things, find it difficult to uh, find a suitable husband or stuff like that, family
Right.
things and
No
stuff like
fit
that.
to the norm.
Yeah, absolutely. And this perception is not today's perception. This has been there for, like, I don't know for how many decades, if not
Right.
centuries. So
But it still exists.
absolutely, yes, and that's a sad reality. So that's why we are bringing this up. So how do you see this perception being broken by people out there who actually go out and perform?
Yeah. So actually, I love that this is coming from you, Sneh. And I
Thanks.
think this is the first step. Then when men start questioning this, probably that is the best way you can see that things are changing, that the perspectives are changing. um, in fact, this has been going on, and I have seen that happening. And my relatives talk like this. I am not married, and my relatives talk like, oh, she has done too much for some boy. I have heard those kind of stories, and I know that this is true for everyone. But for some reason, the expectations of parents, relatives, and people in society has been like, people of this society can only be with people of this society. They have not seen them growing out of that zone and going into another zone, or probably they think that it's a rare thing to happen. But today, if you see that a lot of women, 44% of technology of total working force in India today are women, right? And these women, when they can sustain themselves, they can bring up much healthier family, much healthier relationships, and they can grow children and men, strong men who appreciate these qualities in women. And there are people who are changing this norm. There are parents who are putting their girls first, because they understand that only when the girl is financially stable and confident, only then their responsibility of girl is complete. It is not anymore about sending them off with a guy who can keep them happy or take care of them financially, but sending them where to a place where they are financially capable and they are competent enough.
Totally, I completely agree on that note. Like, I personally see it that everyone has to have that chance and opportunity to grow. Everyone has to have, that courage and effort to be put.
Absolutely, yeah.
Everyone has the right to grow, right? Regardless of their,
Their gender.
even I would say, societal pressure, everything, I would say. And then, I mean, even if they proceed to do any initiatives further, then they would grow even better, because then they have resources and everything in place, right? So that's
A
a
lot of it starts at home. I completely believe in this. A lot of this starts
absolutely.
from home. No matter how many initiatives you put out there, if family is not growing the child like that, if they are not putting in the leadership quality, they will still feel that they are inferior just because how society has treated them.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Preksha. And yeah, sometimes it's getting difficult to get through living in such society. Like
Hmm.
upbringing matters very a lot. That shapes our next generation also.
Right.
So yes, so
Hmm.
from getting accepted into a largely male team and a
Hmm.
demanding work in the hospitality environment to a leading a team of 28 and working 22-hour work shift. So what do you identify as the biggest challenge for the next generation woman?
I think when people say that equality has to be given, or we believe in equality, they only look at competency part of the women. They want to give us equal opportunities, but they are still ignoring our physiological needs. Okay, so I think when I had to do that kind of work, I was happy doing it. It was interesting, it was fun, but it was really exhausting. It was really exhausting because my male counterpart would only respect me if I am, lifting as much as they are, if I am standing as many hours as they are, or even more. Since I am heading the team, I would make sure that each one of my team member goes home after 8 to 10 hours of shift, while I am there standing there for two more shifts. So that I had to make sure that my team is comfortable while I am not, just to give just to bring this and notice that I am more capable than you are, and you have a good leader who can lead. So I felt like I had to prove that, and I think women like us, they are amazing women leader out there who are making a lot of, like, we're taking a lot of initiative to bring out these kind of you know challenges out in the light. So in the next generation, I think it will people will start addressing the physiological differences, as well as not just talking about the equality and competency, but also be able to enable women in the way which they are most comfortable.
Totally. And I believe this misconception has to be broken as soon as possible, because the world is evolving, the world is changing, the world is looking at people,
Mhm.
and the world needs people who can stand up and do the stuff.
Right.
So, talking about career, or talking about people, they
Mhm.
wish to rapidly grow or unlock opportunities and ladder up
Mhm.
to build their own identity, or for any reason, let's say earn more money, unlock freedom. So what would
Mhm.
you like to highlight for the young talent out there who are in
Mhm.
a process of like who are in the foundry of building their foundation at the moment?
So I think one thing, if I talk specifically about India, I think one thing we do not really pay attention to is financial discipline. Okay, I'm sure, like, if you Google about foundation of being an entrepreneur and what you should talk about, how you should sell, you will see multiple things. But I think the financial discipline is one thing no one talks about, because they do not realize about it till a very later stage. So I would like to talk about this, that when youngsters are just starting their career, one thing they should absolutely pay more attention to is their financial well-being. You know, they are people who would say that as a founder you have to go all in, put everything. But if you, as you who's going to challenge the world, you are not comfortable um, in your in your life, as in you do not have proper meal, proper shelter, ways of training yourself, ways of educating yourself, and equipments to work with, I think you'll never be able to put a lot on table. You'll always be lacking into something, and it will, for perseverance you need a lot of time. For perseverance you need a lot of mental stability and strength, and for that you need all the basic necessities which somehow our startup culture has negated in past couple of years. So guys, you always have to understand how financially you can support yourself first, and maybe look into day trading or some kind of other exercises, or, like, have a smaller source of income, which I think is a great idea. Even if you, before you start your startup, have a simple source of income. It could be something very small, maybe a small shop, maybe a very, like, done to the death idea, something like it's in collaboration with someone, you open a momos chain or a biryani center, just a small thing, for sure, something that you know for sure will work. Okay, something that thousands of people have been doing, just so that you know that how distribution works, how sales can be done, how product is developed, and how you can be financially secure in very initial stage. Now this one little project might take you 1 year, not more than that, to put that into motion. But once you come out of this and start your new startup, you will know which mistakes you should not make, what makes money, what is not making money, and your investors and people who are associated with you will see you as someone who has done a successful business before, right? No matter how small.
Very beautifully portrayed, I would say. And
Thank
on that note, since we are talking about habits, determination, and a foundation, how important is it for you to deep dive into action and bringing your desired results into reality? Like, what are your habits and what does motivate you on a constant basis?
I get demotivated very easily. I also wrote a one of the posts on LinkedIn about that. So I think it's with everyone. It's very easy to get demotivated. Someday you're walking out and someone looked wrong at you, you get demotivated. So it has to come from within. Your happiness has to come from within, and your happiness should drive you to do certain things. And when you're talking about that, what actions I take, I just make sure that whatever I'm planning, I take an action on that. I used to be one of those person who would sit on an idea for a long time. Okay, fine, this seems nice. We'll do it. We'll someday do it when this is right, when that is right. But then I realized that with the age we are in, we don't need anything to get started, right? If we want to, let's say, um, let's say I want to build a particular product, and this is what happened at Alpha AI. When we wanted to build it, we thought we will first talk about it and we'll see how people react to it. We'll see who wants to really buy it. Test the market before we actually do it. So we always been one to think that, okay, this could work, so let's try if it's working, let's try what people are saying, let's try if this actually makes viable sense. So we have been those kind of people. And I think once you're in that kind of cycle, once you're in that cycle of trying to prove every hypothesis, you don't need an external force to motivate you on that. You just know that this thing should lead to this kind of result. Now let me go test it out, and whatever the result is, that motivates you for the next thing.
I think we have to adopt this process. Rather, planning is
Right.
fine. Along with the planning, we have to execute it
Right.
parallelly. Yes. Along with that, I want to ask the very interesting question. Changing career path, people don't think before like they execute it. So
Hmm.
it's not a cup of tea for everyone. So you face lot of challenges as well as existing competition also there.
Hmm.
So what kept you going? Or was there any point of life where you thought to go back to being a chef or regret your decision of changing career? Or how did you overcome that?
Right. I think that that low point you get every now and then, first deciding to move on because something else seemed more
Yes.
interesting. That,
Yes.
you keep thinking for years, and then like some people do, and there are people who I know who say that, if I would have done this 5 years back, I probably could have been good in this. But
The
I
X
did.
factor is also involved there.
Right, so they did not want to take risk, but I am just thinking, most risk you can take is right now. There's no better time
Yes.
to take risk. And then this thing, I I tell my parents, because my parents, any typical Indian parent are so risk averse, they don't want you to take any risk. I told them, like, in our family, if anyone can take risk, it's me. Worst case scenario, I'll marry. It's an awful thing to say, but I'm just saying, they were anyway feel that, girls should be married in a good house. They are not worried about girls should have a good career. Like, worst case scenario, marriage is there. But if I have a chance of taking risk and I believe that this could work, then maybe I should go ahead and do this. But keeping that motivation constantly throughout the journey is not easy. Even today, if some days are horrible, I still feel, if I were a chef, I probably would have been in a Michelin star restaurant in France. But that happens, you go back and forth. But important is that you keep pushing and keep learning in what you have started now. Maybe a few years down the line, I feel like, okay, I want to do something else. I'll still go. I'll still take that risk, because what else you gonna do with the boring life?
Yes, absolutely. So, what is the one message you want to convey to our audience regarding this IWD series, and one advice from your end?
So, guys, I think it's a wonderful initiative with Voice of Eminence that you have taken to focus on the women listeners and women entrepreneurs and people who are trying to figure out how to be more prominent in their careers, right? So, getting together a lot of women leaders to share their journey, I think it's a great job. And I think a listener should pick maybe one or two leaders out of these and look at their journey and try to see if that encourages them or matches with theirs. Or if you have questions, you should try and reach out to them separately on their social media handles. I'm sure, like, any of us would be happy to help. And we think that it's been a hard, long journey for our generation. So while we are at it, we are committed to help everyone who's on this journey along with us. And I would like to end this answer with one little poem that I recently read and I really liked it. दिल ना उम्मीद तो नहीं, नाकाम ही तो है, लंबी है गम की शाम, शाम ही तो है. So
Yeah.
this nazm, this talks about perseverance. That whatever you are doing in life and whatever you're pushing towards, just keep going. How long do you think it will last? Whenever you are at a lowest point, the only point after that could be a high point. Cannot be lower than that. So guys, good luck, and best of luck with everything that you're pushing towards.
Thank you so much. It was really, really pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks, Rhea.
Thank you, Preksha, for joining us. Preksha was a great addition in the fleet of Voices of Eminence. We will bring another marvelous voice of eminence in the next episode on the Ninja Talks podcast. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn at the Ninja Talks. Till then, signing off.